Moving on, this is Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Candid Jeff.
Candid Jeff?
With a K.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is he mortal candid?
Candid Jeff. He says, love the show.
Oh.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for looking at my question. The Zelda delay, as well as the recent release of Majora's Mask on 3DS, has had the big end. This is 2 guys in a row.
The big end!
My favorite absolute game series on my mind a lot today. I have to give it to Nintendo. They've been giving Zelda fans plenty of love lately. A Link Between Worlds was awesome, and I'm currently playing through Majora's Mask, which is just as great as when it was released in 2000.
Totally.
My question is this: considering the love people have for Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, as well as the general positive reception of A Link Between Worlds, do you think we'll ever see another direct sequel to Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, which uses the same art style and maybe a similar engine as those 2 games, similar to how A Link Between Worlds was a sequel to A Link Between Pasts?
Interesting. I mean, now would be the time to do it, right? Make it for 3DS, a new original Zelda on 3DS that follows the art style. You know, maybe it follows even that same Link's storyline.
Yeah. I mean, that whole storyline thing is like a weird hodgepodge because that timeline is super confusing. I don't know what's going on with that timeline.
I mean, they totally have a handle on that tech, right? And getting it running on 3DS and have all those assets. I mean, Majora's Mask was developed in a year because it just remixed, you know, as the Mask Salesman and all the same character models and all the same everything from Ocarina of Time. So if they just did, you know, new puzzles, new dungeon, new story, you know, using those existing assets.
Would you rather have it in a 3D view like this, or like more of like the traditional, like Link Between Worlds?
Well, Link Between
we're talking
Worlds
about this. A sequel
We're talking
to
about a
Ocarina,
direct
right?
sequel to this, so...
I'd
I would
rather
play
have
the
it in
crap
this
out of
style
that.
just because Link Between Worlds was, despite being a simply wonderful game, kind of ugly.
Yeah, I wasn't crazy about the art style.
I agree.
And that doesn't take much away from it because it's so
But speaking of
good.
like I'm not super crazy. Like this doesn't look that amazing.
Yeah, especially blown up on a TV.
Yeah.
Like it looks better on.
I mean, I also think I don't think Ocarina of Time is the best Zelda. I like Wind Waker the most. But Ocarina of Time, in my
That's what I was
opinion,
gonna say. If we're asking for direct sequels to Zeldas, can we get a direct sequel to Wind
Totally,
Waker?
that art style.
well, we got those on the DS.
No one wants those.
I know.
We had
Really
a.
consider direct
Choo-choo.
sequels to that game?
Well,
Choo-choo
they're
train
story
or-
sequels.
Okay.
We had a 7-year-old visit IGN earlier this week, and I asked him what his favorite video game was, and he said Zelda, and I said which one? And he's like, the one with the boats in the oceans, and that's what he remembered about.
Oh,
it.
the sense of
That
exploration,
was-
so great. I mean, I think. What was I saying? Oh, so even though Ocarina isn't my favorite, I definitely think it's the one people have the most nostalgia for. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
When
Yeah.
people think about like Zelda and classic Zelda, that seems to be the one that comes up over and over and over again. That was like the big
I mean, yeah,
landmark.
that and Mario 64 were those benchmarks, like the passing of the torch from 2D to 3D.
Yeah.
And you think about the Wii Zelda, which is really just Ocarina of Time remastered. I'm okay with that too. Just
Twilight Princess?
Yeah, Twilight
Yeah.
Princess was a
Yeah.
wonderful game.
I mean, that's the thing. It's also kind of like a direct sequel to that game. Is like, well, all the Zelda games have been like that in gameplay, just not in story. Like they've continued to refine what 3D Zelda means and the complexity and depth of those 3D dungeons. So it would maybe feel a little bit weird to go back.
Do you guys think with this delay of the Zelda for Wii U that this game is going to do what Twilight Princess did and launch on both Wii U as well as like a launch game for NX?
Yeah,
I
I
think
do.
that would really depend on what the NX hardware is built on. I mean, they've gotten away with 3 generations of fairly similar internal hardware. I think it's going to have a lot to do with whether or not they can pull it off with whatever they're putting in the next generation rig. If the NX can either emulate or through its software simulate that old architecture, then yes.
Or stimulate.
But when they went from GameCube to Wii, they were able to pull that off.
Yeah.
It would be harder if they're making some kind of architectural leap to a new chipset to pull that.
Totally.
Jeff says, I'd personally love to see this, a direct sequel to Ocarina of Time. But to be honest, I'll probably buy and play any Zelda game that Nintendo releases.
Sure.
Wonder if we got
Usually
that.
pretty good.
Wonder if we got that Hyrule Warriors.
Oh, there is that.
Link's crossbow training.
I don't know what that noise is.